In one way, I knew I would not take my life. But the thoughts came and they were awful. I thought, okay, I cannot just take my life. I need to make it look like an accident, because otherwise my family would not get money on the life insurance. So the thoughts were there, and I know I just allowed them to come, but I didn't see the way out at that time.
With mental stories and mental outcomes, you're listening to This World is Mental with your hosts, Robbie Thompson and Francesca Stutley.
Hey, Fran. Good to see you in people clothes today. You're not in your normal yoga workout garb.
I know, it's really interesting because when I see people in the street, I say hi, and they look at me twice. I thought, oh my God, because I'm usually in lycra. Yeah, a woman in lycra. I get up in the morning and that's all I wear all day long.
Standing outside the studio. Who is that?
Yeah. No, it's me. It's me.
No, I'm looking forward to today's episode. We have Thomas Anderson on, as you know, is an author and Swedish entrepreneur that he's kind of walked the path in front of what I'm trying to do. So I'm looking out for any booby traps along the way.
Yeah, hopefully be some advice. Yeah, his book is The Vulnerable Man, and I think that for my teacher, her line was, there's strength in vulnerability, and it took me a long time to understand that. So it'll be really interesting to talk with Thomas today.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. I think I mentioned to our audience earlier, you walked this path that I think so many men, but so many people in general kind of straddle. And in your book and what I've read online on your website, it was just like straddling this and managing this worry, doubt, all these emotions that can knock a person down from their true potential. And that coincides with our podcast so much. It's This World is Mental is about exploring these things. So tell us a little bit about your history, your background, what led you to that point.
Yeah, I think my change was in 2015. That was when I sort of hit the wall, or sort of the burnout path. In a way, I did everything right in life. I had a sort of good career, or how do you define a good career? I don't know, but I still had a job at key account manager, management consulting. I was living with my family at the time, my ex-wife and the kids. But I was doing like everything right, but I just felt on the inside that I didn't manage. It was not enough. So I just felt that kind of feeling of sort of being depressed and really dark thoughts, and that was sort of the change for me. So that was like a few years ago.
How old were you at the time, Thomas?
Now I have to think. I think I was 37 at that time. Yes.
And how long it was a corporate environment you were in?
Yes.
And how long had you been working for them?
At that firm, I had been for 4 years at that time, and before I've been working for about 7 years, so 11 years total. Yeah.
And was it competitive there? Was there a lot of politicking with promotion? Yeah. Very vicious environment. Unless you're righteously on top, but we're all trying to be on top, right? This sounds like stuff that I've told you about myself.
I hear it all the time from people. I just don't think the corporate environment is healthy for our mind, body and soul. So tell us what happened to you. What was that? Did you have a light bulb moment, Thomas?
Yes. It was in a way... It was like, I also see like at many at that company at the time were also suffering. You can see sort of the stress. And I think also I was at sort of an IT consultant firm at that time. And I think, we maybe were early into the digital stress. But then I sort of felt that like, I don't feel enough. Like, is it even worth like staying on this earth? I was really in dark places. But then also I felt like this is not the way it should be. I've felt good before. And it was this sort of, but what can I do? And I sort of opened up to a few friends and started talking, and then it sort of made me change in different ways. I got sort of some ideas to, stop things at work, maybe set my boundaries better. And also sort of felt that, I told myself that I did a lot of workouts, but, I prioritized the kids or the work or anything like that. So that also like, I need to do more workout. I just felt very deep within that if I do more like 3 times a week at least, then I need to do that before I can sort of focus on my mind. So it was this very strong feeling that I need to do something to in a way get back, because this is not the way it should be.
So what did you do?
I did in a way, 3 things. I started to say sort of get balance at work. And this might sound easy or simple now, but it was a friend who was a manager at that time, and I talked to her and I said, it was actually after a yoga class. And I said, like, it's so hard for me to say no at work, or it's just too much. But she said, maybe because then I had different customers I was responsible for. And she said, you just need to say no. Or you say maybe that you need to only manage 3 customers because you want to deliver with quality and do that good. And she said, maybe if you take on 4, 5, 10 customers and you don't sort of deliver with a good quality, the manager will say, why didn't you, this is not good. Why didn't you tell me? No, it was too much. So just started to sort of set boundaries at work. And then it was then my workout to start doing that regularly, like need to do that. And then I started to also then go to a therapist and sort of working with my mental parts, and that was a very big change, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can all relate to your boss asks something or they expect something out of everybody, right? And you expect it out of yourself in turn because you care, you're empathetic about everybody else's life around you, especially your kids, your wife, the company, et cetera, et cetera. But it's impossible sometimes to say no until you get this training. And, you know, I think blowing off steam, working out gets you so far. You see, you know, the most successful CEOs in the world, they work out. You know, look at Jeff Bezos. He's, you know, ripped guy. He's, you know, obviously doing well. But this psychologist, this therapy, that's the step I feel like people miss out on, right? And how pivotal was that? How hard was it to turn to that side and walk through that door, make an appointment? And
no, I think that was one of the sort of crucial parts. I remember like the first session, I went like for 3 hours. And it was like before I maybe sort of, you know, judged that I should not think like this. I should not feel like this. So I'd sort of hidden one part of me that I did not allow because that was sort of somehow wrong. And in this session, I just remember like I sort of that, and they said like, what you feel or think, no right, no wrong, is just a feeling. It's your body telling you something and just allowing it. And that was just so relieving not to judge what I felt or thought, instead of understanding why I felt or thought something. And also to allow myself to feel emotions and not judge them. Like when the first time I cried at that session, it's like, I said, I'm sorry. She's like, no, just let it out. And I think that was the key thing, just to understand even more how I felt. I understand my emotions, and then I could see what did I do sort of that against myself. Why did I feel like this? So it's more to understand all these things, and then also then how can I let things out? I think that was the key thing for me at that moment, because I saw, okay, this is going to be rough, but I also got this sort of tools and technique and not judging, letting go of emotions. That has been sort of from that time my key thing. Whatever I do, it's not judging it.
And in your background, in your childhood, was there anything there that could have shaped you into the person you were going into that job without, you know, the help that you got much later on? But anything with your upbringing? Did you have siblings? Was the family life competitive, or was your school competitive?
I think it was mostly that. I think looking back at my kids right now, my stepkids are 16 and 20, and I see them sort of growing up and sort of how much happened in the teenage years. And I think so much happened on my inside. I can sort of see the times when I was 13, and I did not have sort of the places to talk about it. It was not maybe not allowed, but it was just not common. Like we didn't talk about it. And maybe as a man as well, you should not. I think that's what I judged with myself as well. I feel too much, I think too much, and things like that.
So what happened when you were 13?
I switched schools. I went from a smaller school to sort of this junior high. It's Swedish. It's not the same. It's exactly the same. But I think that changed a lot from like a small school with only like 70 pupils to a bigger school. And it was like a sort of a different vibe. And I think that changed a lot for me. There was some occasions I don't know if I was bullied in one sense, but I think I felt it. I started to feel wrong in one way at that time. And I think I was not comfortable or even had like close friends to talk about what I felt. You just did things. And I think sometimes if I brought it up, it was, you should not talk about it. And that was, in a way, what I see right now. I never learned to understand my inner world, and I judged it from an early age.
It's really hard, right? When I've switched schools, in fact, just last week I was looking at my old school and thinking, like, my God, where would my life be if I just would have stayed in that school? I was so engaged in technology and, had the right friends. I remember switching schools, and I remember there was no time for do I feel bullied? There was no time for studying. I just wanted to make some friends there. And making friends to me at that time meant trying to make the coolest friends possible, right? So then you're serving people, right, at a young age. And it feels like I've taken that mentality forward in my life. And, the more I look at it, the more wrong and dangerous living your life can be in that mentality. And you get mixed emotions from it. And I think, a lot of what you write here is based on these experiences, based on deciphering and pulling out those tangles in life. So,
Thomas, in your book, you talk about HSP, highly sensitive people. And I've heard of it, but I didn't know 15 or 20% of people seem to be that. But what's the line between feeling and being human, where we are feeling, and being a highly sensitive person?
Well, all of us feel, of course. It's being human, and I think that's what I also want to bring in. It's actually about feeling and being human. That's sort of the key thing. But being a highly sensitive person means that you have a more sort of sensitive nervous system, that you take in more information, that you process more information. You can be more open to smells or sounds or things like that. That you just sense more. You process more information, and for me is that I process, or I'm sort of being maybe an empath and feeling how our people feel, and sort of you react. How is the situation in the room and things like that. So in a way, that's what it is. So it's like deeper processing of information, but then it can also be overstimulated. That is just too much. For example, if you're out with your friends, or you sort of travel somewhere with your family, and you're out all day just doing new things, and then after that you just feel, it's been so much impressions all day, and it's just been so much, and you say, I just want to stay in tonight. And the other people say, but we have decided to go for dinner. But then you're all overwhelmed with all the impressions of the day, and then you also feel guilt of, okay, then I'm a bad person not joining people for dinner, then you're the boring one. So just understanding that not everyone takes in this much information was also for me an understanding, not everyone sees the same things I do. So that was for me a big sort of understanding as well, to sort of allow what I felt. And also I sort of met other people that thought the same. It's like, then you read it, like, you sense it too. Oh, that's so good.
So when did you decide to write the book, and how did the book come about? And what's it about?
Well, the book is about my sort of journey from my feelings of my burnout and sort of the recovery. So I share my sort of journal or my diary over 3 years, and then sort of do reflections on that. And it was sort of after I went to therapy, I did all this kind of work, and then I had a lot of life changes, and I saved my ex-wife, so you understand it's a divorce as well. But at that time, it started sort of a lot of life changes. I went to walk the Camino Santiago de Compostela, so I did that in 2017. And then I had processed all my things. I was quite calm with sharing my emotions, or sharing how I felt, and also sharing my story, because I had done that for a couple of years in my healing. And it was at this moment I walked, I think it was some of the first days at the Camino, and I met this guy from US. He was around 23, 24. And we talked, like 2 days maybe, you go there and you talk and share. And I was very open with my story. And that really helped him to open up. And he shared some deep things that really helped him to move forward. And that was the first idea, to say, maybe my story can help others. So that was sort of the first idea to write this story. And then also to be quite open with sort of my own journal, since I've written that for many, many years.
And when you talk about burnout, what is that for you, and did you realise it was happening? And you mentioned that you didn't want to be here anymore. Were you suicidal?
Yes.
Yeah, it sounded dark. Sweden has a high suicide rate in Sweden naturally anyway, because
and actually, it was actually quite a strange feeling, because I sort of had that feeling. So I sort of saw, I cannot laugh about it, but it was in a way I allowed the feelings, because in one way I knew I would not take my life. It was quite, I would not do it. But the thoughts came and they were awful. And also when the thoughts came, I sort of thought more about my family than me. I thought, okay, I cannot just take my life. I need to make it look like an accident, because otherwise my family would not get money on the life insurance. So I thought about, okay, I could walk by the docks I live in Gothenburg, and then I could maybe just fall into water and drown, and that could be an accident, and that my family can get on the life insurance. So the thoughts were there, and I know I just allowed them to come. It was really rough, of course, but I didn't see the way out at that time.
Did you share those thoughts with anybody you were close to? No, that was really guarded.
No, that I kept it to myself. But I remember then on my sort of journey back, I was at a retreat for highly sensitive people, and then I just thought, I need to ask this question, because I felt so alone, a lot of shame, because just thinking it. And then I just said, have you ever had suicidal thoughts? I asked this team, and maybe it was 8 people, and everyone said yes. And then it's also, I'm quite open with it in the book as well. It's just to take the shame out of it, because having the thoughts, it's in a way that you don't know how to get out of it. And just to take off the feeling or not, we just need to sort of share this more and not have the shame in it.
And we'll be back in just a moment. Yogi Life 365 are proud sponsors of This World is Mental podcast. For habit-changing mindset help, choose one of our feel-good courses for your mental, emotional and physical well-being. It's been proven that doing things in a group is easier than on your own. Come join me at yogilife365.com. Change your mind and it will change you.
We were just talking about your video. You almost say the name of our podcast in your video, but it brought up a good point, that the world is changing massively.
Yeah.
You're saying that we don't have the tools to get on in this new world. Can you extrapolate on that a bit?
Yeah, I think it sort of came to me, like in the first time I sort of, I felt sort of shame of being vulnerable and like being a man, opening up, and that was sort of a lot of shame of it. But then it's also sort of came into me more of, like I said before, like I was a management consultant when I sort of burned out. It was in 2015. And I think we were quite early with the digital tools. We were connected with the Teams meetings and emails. I remember, between meetings, I sat on the tram and I checked my emails, and I got the emails in the evenings and I checked it. And I remember getting like an email from my manager about some questions, and then I thought about how to answer the email, and I slept very badly, and I, answered it quite easily in the morning. And all these, WhatsApp groups and to be everywhere. And I think that is the change that was not the same for my grandparents. I sometimes think about my grandma, and I think we were quite alike. But she had 5 kids living on a farm. Of course, she was like taking care of everything, making sure everyone was doing okay. But she had the family, she had the farm. The closest neighbor were 100 meters away. And she did that. But then I could see myself as a caring person, like there's so many things to consider. There's never a time to rest. If you want to be there for everyone, when do you stop today? The news is 24/7. You can be connected on, I don't know how many different, it's WhatsApp, it's Messenger, it's text, it's email, it's Slack, it's all these kind of tools. So you are in a way, we are in a new setup. And since we are sort of social animals, we thrive on these social interactions. And it's also based on fear. Will we be part of the group? So this change with, of course, the digital tools, but in a way that we are connected, that we can be digital nomads, we can sort of connect to people all over the world, we can instantly share information. It is it's radical change in human history. And therefore we need to sort of rethink, okay, but how do we then balance our mind, and how do we balance our emotions? Like all this social media is also designed to keep you there. They're building on behavioral science, and it's triggers so many things that are normal human behaviors, but it's just overwhelming.
What's your advice? How do we go about that? How do we combat this ever pushing forward of all this information? And how do we teach our children as well? I think it's a huge thing for kids when they've grown up with phones. It's a problem that's is going to be bigger than we ever know, I think.
No, but I think it's seeing is, of course, we are affected differently. not everyone is affected. And also I think these things can trigger like traumas within that. Maybe if you have been bullied or things like that, it can trigger things. But in a way, as brushing your teeth, as washing your hands, it's to find routines in the day. Maybe start the day without entering the phone. I'll just take an example. Just imagine in the morning, if you just go open your front door and you let in 100 people. Hello, hey, how are you doing? Da, da, da. You will not do that because you want to wake up in your own space. But you might pick up the phone and read the news, connect on Facebook or different social medias. And then in a way, your mind opens up for hundreds of people. And you are then triggered, something is happening. Because, and also in the evening, maybe to not use your phone the last hour or any social media or TV. So see it as setting routines during the day to balance your things that you experience.
Yeah, it's hard. I've tried to do this. I know we all have, right?
Yeah.
And it's discipline. And I think this fundamental discipline is the hardest thing to achieve in that.
Yeah.
Because we all know about it in our, we're not teenagers anymore.
Yeah.
We know that it's not good for us, not productive. But where do you find that discipline?
Well, it's habit. So it's just repetition. Habit, I think, that creates the lasting pattern. So, Thomas, what with your Vulnerable Man, your book, how do you think women and men handle vulnerability? Do they handle it differently? And if so, how? I think it's different. What I can see for men, and that's also why I'm so sort of open, is that I think sometimes it could be harder for men because we're raised in a way that we should not show these emotions. And maybe it's also then a part of whole society that we sort of push things away. And also maybe it was needed 100 years ago, 50 years ago, that we actually had starvation, we had not as much food, we didn't have all the luxury we have today with housing, with water and in a different way. So maybe we just didn't learn it before. But I think it's different for men, because I think women did it more before, because you were more social, taking care of maybe kids more, and you were more in that area. And men just manned up or did what kind of job they did based on more muscle power or whatever. So I see a difference and a struggle. I think it's changing as well, but I think I remember when like with the book and being this open, but it also triggers a lot because it's also based on a lot of fear. Like sometimes I say that sometimes men are on sort of being age 5 talking about emotions because we never learned how to express easy things. Because for me it was pushed away for a very, very long time. Like just talking about the most simple thing of how I felt was I felt like overwhelmed. I'm going to lose everything. So much fear about talking about these things because that's what I experienced and that's what I learned. Like you should not say this because then you can then go back to humans, social things, then your risk of being pushed out of the group. So it is normal in a way. It's human behavior because you should not be outside of the group. So that's also limiting us today, as you say also, Robbie. Here it's hard because it is hard because we did not practice as kids, and I think that's the thing now, to be more not judging emotions or feelings that something can be wrong. It's more to understand why do you feel like this, and it's okay to cry, it's okay to be worried, and also maybe today we have this sort of, we call it being curling family, or sort of you curl your kids and sort of prepare for them so they should not feel things. You should only feel the happy things. But if you go through a breakup, if you do some new things at work, if you stand on stage, of course you will get emotions that you could be scared, or it will not be as pleasant feelings. But it's not dangerous. It's just that you are putting yourself maybe in a new situation. You are vulnerable. So then allow things, and how do you then help you through that emotions? It's like if you practice for a marathon or different kind of sports, you practice and you learn how your body works with your body, with your muscles, and you push yourself. And it is about the same with these things as well. And I think that is one key thing for me. Of course, I feel many different things, but I just help myself to let it go. And especially if I do new things, it's like, okay, this is going to be rough for me. How can I help myself?
I remember that, going through the divorce, that of course was just a disaster and really, really rough. But I also felt very comfortable in it because, okay, I just need to help myself through it. I need to feel it. I need to let things go. I cried a lot. I was upset. I took time for myself. And then I said, what do I need during this time? It was hiking. It was time for myself. I did not sort of push myself to, you should go out dating or things like that. I actually just gave myself space. And also now back to the connected world, and we are sort of, everything should be so quick. So it's like a perfect storm. Like everything is just at the same time, I think.
Putting yourself out there with a book,
The
Vulnerable Man, that's one step. And when you were doing that, I'm sure you released a lot of that stress, a lot of that underlying, dark thoughts, all that. Can you walk us through that journey, actually putting down your life experience into a book designed to help people?
Yeah, it was like I said, I walked the Camino, and then I sort of felt that there is something here. And also around that time in the fall, it was the Me Too movement. And then some men we met, like in Sweden, it was this sort of movement that how can we men help? And it was this like guys talk, and we sort of had a manual what to talk, and we were like 13, 14 men, and we sort of met and talked. And then also I saw this sort of importance of these parts of sharing. I saw how easy it was for me, what I've gone through, but I see also the longing for many just to sort of talk more and just having this safe space. So then I sort of had that feeling, yes, maybe I should do something with the book or write something. Because, of course, that was the most scariest part one of the scariest part in my life to actually write it. Because, like, setting my journal out there, how I felt, my parents, my family, my friends, colleagues, and all these people will now read my inner world, the things I have not showed people for a long, long time.
And what was the most vulnerable thing that you shared?
I think it was like, in a way, how I thought, sort of my sort of how my mind worked. Like when I wrote in my diary, like my worries and how I think about different things, that I felt, ashamed that I thought too much, that I worried about things, and that people maybe would see me as not as strong.
That's so crazy. It's like if somebody broke into your laptop, saw your internet history, and got in your Facebook, your Instagram, and everything, and just put it out there for the world to see. Yeah. So it's like that vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay.
But I think that was the important thing. Like I saw on the Camino, I saw in these sort of meetings that we sort of talked, that it's just important. I think it's just needed today. And I read many books in my life, and you sort of self-help and also novels. But for me, it was the authenticity of actually showing my real words. Like, this is how I felt in my dark moments, my journey back, and also the struggles of coming back. Because you run and you fall, and you take one step forward, 2 steps back, and you sort of go back and forth. And I just wanted to show you, this is how I can feel. So sort of it's a book that can sort of be a help on the way. Because sometimes it's so easy to say, you just do it. But then when you start to change, like you do change your routines, then you say, I'm such a bad person, I cannot change my routines. Of course, it's hard to change routines, because that triggers something within you. And all these emotions, I think also that's what I mentioned. You change something, then you worry about this. Will I fail? Okay, what will people think if I change these routines? And it's all these emotions. It's like a spider web of different sort of things to just explore. You open up something, then something else comes. And then you, step by step, you practice and understand. And also how you sort of trick yourself sometimes.
And what do you do now? How do you work with people now, Thomas?
Well, I work with my own business. I sort of help, I call it help people and companies in transformation. So I work as a life coach. I do speaking events on mental health. And I also work as a change manager. So I help companies in digital transformation and these things that I work with my sort of old management consulting things. So it's a mix, but for me it feels like a good mix. And then I have a new book idea, or 3, but at least 1.
As you do.
What do you find when you work with people nowadays and you're doing your events and conferences and stuff like that? What's the biggest concern that people have when they are, maybe in their lives and in their work.
Like a trend of what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. But I think in a way what we have been talking about, these things of struggling, and also you want a quick response. You're sort of, you don't know what to do. You're sort of, you know something is wrong, but then you don't know how to change routines, but also you want it to be quick. I think that's the sort of dilemma.
And is it more men than women that come to you?
No, it's 50-50, yeah.
What was the win for you with this book? What was the goal? Like, besides, with the CBD company, I thought, sell a bunch of CBD, but it was so funny. I was walking down the road once and I saw a CBD box from our company laying on the street. Like somebody had littered it, and it was like, that got real. It was like kind of like a win. Like it's been, it's out there. But what's your big win for this book?
Yeah, of course it is to help people in a similar situation that are suffering and don't know the way out, because that's how I felt, and I seen so many also suffering, so that is sort of the key thing. And it makes me so happy when some people write me emails or message me and say, hey, you changed my life, and they thank me from the bottom of their heart for the book. And that's like, when I got that first message, when I remember actually getting that for the English books, like, okay, I'm done now. I can quit. No, I think that is the key thing.
What's your biggest dream now, Thomas?
So many dreams. No, but I think it's to be happy, sort of, and sort of follow my intuition a lot. Like I usually say, when my heart sings, I'm at the right place. And I think it's to sort of continue to grow, continue to learn, and to continue to share and help in the best way I can.
It's everybody's dream, isn't it? When you ask anybody, or when people come to the end of their life, what do you regret? Or the only thing I regret is what I didn't do, and allowed myself to be happy and to do the things that made me happy.
Yeah.
No, to be happy and to explore what that actually means. And I think you're well on that path there, Thomas. And it was an absolute pleasure having you in, speaking with us today. So if you could please just tell our audience where they can find your book. I know it's on amazon.co.uk, and by the way, there's some excellent reviews on there of the book, so definitely look at those. But anywhere else?
You can find it on Amazon, US.com or Deutschland or Australia. It's on all Amazon sites, I guess. And also you can find information like different podcasts and interviews and things like that on my website thomasanderson.se. Don't worry, it's in Swedish and English if you don't have practiced all your Swedish yet.
Your English is perfect.
It's perfect. I'm so jealous.
Thank you for being with us. It's great.
Your Instagram too is ThomasAnderson_SE. Is that right?
.se, same as my website. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Definitely go give Thomas a follow there. Thank you so much for joining This World is Mental. We wish you all the best and good luck out there.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed Thomas Anderson's story and would like to know the whole thing, we're actually giving away a copy of his book titled The Vulnerable Man, Reclaim Your Life, Master Your Emotions, Break Your Patterns. So we're giving this away. Just go to our website, thisworldismental.com, click the link with Thomas's book in it, and enter the survey to win a signed copy. Other than that, take care and see you on the next one.